Like to say, and hey, it's 8:30, so all right, serious face. Welcome to the Game Overthinker panel, ladies and gentlemen. Boy, there's a lot of you. Okay, cool. Okay, so I generally don't structure for panels because chances are there are people who've already heard enough out of me and want to throw some things at me. So questions. Only the questions. I see some people with the tennis balls and ping pong balls. It's not that kind of panel. You will not get wet in the front row. I only have this one bottle of water, and this is for me, because it's dry as hell here in Hamilton.
It usually is.
Yeah, no, I like that. It's that nice crisp air. It's very good. But yeah, so I'm just going to hit a brief introduction. And then we'll get to the Q&A, and there is going to be there's a microphone behind the camera there. That'll be for the Q&A so that no one has to be yelling. So once I say, okay, Q&A time, just line up behind that microphone. The especially eager who would like to line up right now, go ahead, sure, why not? Try going around the front so that we're not tripping over the camera. And we will get this started. So, welcome to the Game Overthinker panel. Also known as the MovieBob, Bob Chipman, whatever the hell panel, because you know I wear many hats. I am large. I contain multiple dudes. Walt Disney said that. We're just going to get on that. So I think many of you are here. How many of you are here as fans of the Game Overthinker show? Runs on YouTube, Screw Attack, many other places. Recently ran on Blip, does not anymore because of stuff beyond my control at Blip, which is just delightful. Since this is a con for largely appreciating internet video content, I'm sure we're all familiar with that. Yeah. Captain Bringdown, ladies and gentlemen. I also run Escape to the Movies, which is a movie review show on the Escapist. Okay, now I definitely have to show my publisher this tape. We also run The Big Picture on the Escapist, which is guys are gonna get me all embarrassed up here. And those are what I'm here for. I did promise on the Game Overthinker blog and the MovieBob blog that people who attended this panel would get some Game Overthinker news before it breaks anywhere else. I can't be completely forthcoming about it, but I can say that for those of you who do follow the Game Overthinker in its current form, which has a narrative element and a lot of things going on, the Game Overthinker, as it is known, will come to an end before the end of this year. That doesn't mean it's going away. Don't freak out. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. I got bills to pay. I got a lease on an apartment. I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck. I'm trapped. You've got me for a long time. But the current form of the Game Overthinker will cease to be by the end of this year. Probably going to keep the title. And we will see what new form this takes, what will become of your favorite characters or not so favorite characters. Tune in and find out. I don't think a lot of people will be disappointed. The rationale for why that's happening is, quite frankly, the Blip situation. Blip.com decided to cull the number of shows that were on there. We didn't make the cut. That's unfortunate. As such, right now, there's a financial situation of not being able to maintain the show in its current form in the quality that I want it to be. As it is, so we're going to have ourselves a big finale and wrap that edge up, and then you will see an all-new, once again, rebooted, whole new form of the Game Overthinker. Same overthinking, same host, same opinions, a different look and feel. We're going to try out a lot of different things and see, maybe do some spin-offs as well. Escape to the Movies in the Big Picture, those are going to stay completely as is. They are going to have to shoot me to get me off that. Because that's a regular paycheck. That is some good stuff. I started the Game Overthinker because I wanted to talk about video games on the internet. I've had a lot of fun doing it. It's brought me more success than I ever could have thought possible. 5 or 6 years ago when I was just starting out, I never could have dreamed that I would be, traveling cross-country. It counts. I'm only coming from Boston, but this counts as cross-country. There's 2 countries. I crossed from one into the other. It counts. It's not like I'm flying to Paraguay, but I wouldn't. There's no con inviting me in Paraguay. Canada invited me. Well, like Canada, okay, a person in Canada invited me. An authentic Canadian, an actual Canadian invited me to
We had a
come.
committee about it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm very grateful that I went out in the vote, and I'm glad, because I'm sure there's other people from Boston they could have invited, but they chose me, and I'm glad for that.
You or John Cena.
Nobody
Doesn't Cena just come every time there's an event in Montreal? I mean, at this point, you'd have to, speaking of people, you'd have to kick out of their jobs. Jesus. How long is Cena going to play the exact same character in the exact same run? I will not turn this into a wrestling panel. I will not turn this into a wrestling panel.
The Marvel panel's in for 5 minutes.
The champ is here. What a cartoon. And I'm supposed to say I like him too because he's a local boy and he does all kinds of nice stuff for kids, but my God, if anyone is overdue for a heel turn, enough. This is what happens when I don't sleep. The Game Overthinkers brought me a lot of great success. It has led to, led directly to getting picked up by Screw Attack, getting picked up by The Escapist, and that has led to me attending these wonderful conventions, which are no bullshit, little bit of bullshit, but no identifiable level of bullshit are the best parts of doing this job because you get to come out and see people who are excited and who want to meet you and treat you like you mean something, which just blows my mind because I am nobody. I'm a state college film major from not even Boston, outside of Boston. I live in Revere. People from the New England area can tell you what that means in terms of being from Boston. So, I don't know what the from Toronto version of that is, for example. I like this so far. It's like a really big college town, but I don't see a college.
There on the mountain. There.
Fantastic.
I went to one of them.
Fantastic. Well, you got some beautiful women walking around out there. That's what I do gotta say. Wow, I gotta come to Canada more often, I gotta say. Who was the guy who decided that hipster glass, that like hipster chick glasses and like the librarian and a porno glasses were the same thing? Okay, because God bless that guy. That's a good one. All right, that's enough bullshit from me. If people have things that they want to know, get behind that microphone and let's get this party started. Don't all jump up at once. I know y'all are supposed to be polite. You don't gotta be that polite.
Oh, I am never.
We've got until at least, what, do we have 8 or 8:30? We have until 9 or 9:30 in here.
9:30.
We got time to fill. So come up with questions. Let's hear them. You first, sir.
Okay, so you say a lot of the time, especially in the big picture, that we can't have nice things.
Yeah?
Considering how the gaming industry as a whole, we're still not relatively taken seriously, what do you think is like one of the major factors? Because I'd argue a lot of it's like the way that we talk to each other now. And I think also the way that we handle issues like racism and sexism is still a pretty big deal for how we, I guess, handle it for the most part.
Couldn't open with an easy one, huh? Okay. Well, it's really, speaking of an easy one, people always want to find the one thing that you need to change and then everything will fall back into place in order to fix anything, whether you're talking about fandom communities, video game industry, politics. The fact is, a lot of stuff can go wrong. And the main thing that has gone wrong, not the only thing, not negating my own point, but the main thing is that video games became really, really profitable at exactly the moment when they were also not trying as hard. And you had this huge explosion of into the mainstream in terms of both cultural visibility and in terms of money happened right at the turn of the 21st century, where you had a tech bubble and you had suddenly a mainstream audience buying video games and wanting to be involved in them and wanting to play them. And you suddenly had a lot of developers realizing, both on the AAA side with stuff like the endless Call of Duty knockoffs and Call of Duty repeats and actual Call of Duty sequels, and also the mobile explosion, where I don't like to shit on the mobile gaming as a platform because so many people do, and it tends to be less about running down problems in that industry and more about people venting their frustrations about what they perceive mobile gamers to be. Because you never hear anyone say, oh my God, King Games, is full of horrible practices and bad stuff. It always goes back to, oh, those games are just bullshit for soccer moms. You know, as though you know, middle-aged women or people with families, you know, who play games are lesser. You know, you know, like Activision ripping off college guys with Call of Duty, you know, clones, you know, making the same game year after year after year. That's okay. We'll just accept that. That's one thing. But you know, God forbid someone's mom, you know, enjoyed both Candy Crush Saga 1 and 2. Is there a 2? There must be a 2. There you go. That's how much I know about Candy Crush. They'll get there. I mean, it did take like what, 10 years for Tetris 2. So. I honestly think a crash needs to happen. And so it's something big actually needs to come out and fail, because we keep complaining about these things, and then they always make money. You know, the fact like Microsoft just shuttered Xbox Entertainment, which was going to be the whole thing about making content just for Xbox 360 for like, you know, web-based TV shows exclusive to them. They just shuttered that. That's over. That's gone. They're going to make that Ridley Scott Halo show still. That's about it. And you know, the idea that they couldn't launch that as a platform. It sucks for the people that lost their jobs, but maybe if it stops being that you can just stick your knife in the ground anywhere in the video game world and get an oil spill and suddenly get wealthy, maybe we'll get people putting in more effort. And that will lead to people wanting to police the communities. It'll lead to people wanting to make games that reach out to a more diverse audience, and it'll lead to things. Because right now, if the whole scene of like online gaming and AAA gaming sucks balls right now. It's a terrible situation. They're making shit and they're making money hand over fist. And until the making money hand over fist parts of that stops, they're not going to stop making shit. And that's what I got to say about that.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Oh, hey, before I ask, I should mention as well, in case the big plug sitting on the table right here is there, I have brought copies of my book, Super Mario Bros. 3 Brick by Brick, a novelized Let's Play of Super Mario Bros. 3 and a history of the Super Mario Bros. As a series. Was independently published by Fangamer, written by me, is available for $5 Canadian or $5 US, special 1-year anniversary price, and also because I just didn't want to deal with exchange rate coins, will be available for sale. I'm carrying a briefcase around with me, and if anyone would like to buy one after the panel, I will sell it out in the hall. Why not? I don't have a table, so yeah, I just set up wherever. Okay, you sir, ask your question.
Hi.
Hi.
I see a lot of video reviewers do collabs with each other, but I never really see that much coming from you. I'm just curious as to why.
Well, there's a couple of reasons. Honestly, I will cameo and collab with almost anyone who wants to cameo and collab. There have been a few things that have tried to get started that did not come through. I've been worked on a few things for Game OverThinker. The fact is that some areas of the country, just by happenstance, when the personality reviewer thing kind of exploded, a lot of places sort of wound up as hubs, quote unquote, for a lot of those people. So in many cases, you have people who live within driving distance of one another, or they go to a lot of the same conventions. I have only recently, within the last 3 or 4 years, been in a financial state where I can afford to, go to all of the convention stuff. Which is where a lot of these collabs take place and a lot of where the networking takes place. So I'm a little behind the ball on that. Especially because I'm a 33, which makes me about 10 years older than a lot of the people who were getting in on the YouTube and Blip reviewer, not bandwagon, but that whole scene. So I'm kind of I'm not a millennial, and that's very much other than people like me, and I believe Jim Sterling is close to me in age, I'm not sure. I don't know a lot of other people in this scene that rep late period Generation X as opposed to millennials. So there's a lot of people who are not necessarily in each other's social circles other than meeting at these the convention scene. So I'm always looking to get involved with it, but I certainly don't have any personal animus towards it. It just doesn't always work out. Like, I'm the only person doing this kind of stuff that I know of in Boston, which is a huge area. If there are any others, I would gladly work with them. I'm always running into friends at cons, so maybe you'll see one in the near future. Maybe something like that is already in the works that I can't talk about because it would be about non-disclosure stuff. But keep watching the skies.
Oh, and just one more thing. I really like your American Bob stuff, but I don't really see it come out that often. Is there a reason for that, or just?
Right now, it's because I had trouble getting paid for them. At this point, I have so much on my plate that if it doesn't produce revenue, I can't do it. And if that sounds like selling out, then okay, but I do need to get paid. And YouTube makes it very difficult to actually get paid for stuff like that. And also, those take a lot of work because those aren't generally joke shows. American Bob, for those who hadn't seen it, was a series of about 5 YouTube videos that were about politics. The fact is, they take a long time because I actually want to get into really in-depth make sure my points are good, because political stuff tends to get picked up and picked apart, so I want to make sure I'm on point. And that had to take a back seat to other stuff, mainly on the virtue that it was an independent production and wasn't part of the revenue stream. But in the States, we have some elections coming up soon, so you'll probably see some stuff about that.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
Hey, no problem, thank you. We had 2 really good ones so far, so no pressure, no pressure.
What are your opinions on something like, say, fan fiction?
I think good fan fiction is good, and I think bad fan fiction is bad. Fan fiction is fan fiction has always existed. It's been around probably as long as fiction has.
Yeah.
I think right now we're entering the idea that people are now selling fan fiction. It gets into a troubling place for me, and I'm not talking about people who rewrite their fan fiction into being original characters, like the Cassandra Clare stuff, and wasn't that 50 Shades of Grey a Twilight fanfic?
Yeah.
They changed the names out or something. You see, this is 2 things that I didn't read and don't pay attention to.
Yeah, good thing too, because it sucks.
Well, so I'd heard. I know a lot of people who write fan fiction, and a lot of people find it a great release, and it can, in all seriousness, can be a great way to practice as a writer, is to skip the pretext of, coming up with characters and work with what you know and figure out how the nuts and bolts of fiction writing work. It can be a great tool. That's how I started writing. Granted, I was 12 and I wasn't publishing it or showing it to anyone, but it's around. And what troubles me is that we're getting into a fan fiction business model now, where you have some publishers that are buying fanfic and licensing it in order to release an officially licensed volume of Twilight fanfiction or Harry Potter fanfiction or something, is a thing that's starting to happen. That worries the hell out of me, because a lot of people writing fanfiction are younger and don't necessarily have a lot of business savvy, and I worry that they're going to get taken advantage of. I worry anytime something that exists as a natural, organic outgrowth of just fan appreciation gets someone figuring out they can make money off of it and trying to get involved, because the original people that were doing it almost always end up getting screwed. And I'm, not for nothing, we're seeing big studios and stuff buying YouTube partner channels now, and I really worry about people, getting into trouble about that stuff. And maybe not knowing the exact way that legally they can be abused by a big corporation that might want to be involved in that. And that kind of worries me. But fan fiction itself is, there's a lot of running down of fan fiction. And yeah, most fanfic is terrible. It's terrible by its nature, but some of it's good.
Yeah,
and
those are good ones, by the way.
Yeah, and if people want to do fan fiction, do good, do bad, just do it. But I worry about the commodification of it that's starting to happen, because it opens up a lot of really troubling questions.
Yeah. The reason I ask is because actually I'm a member on it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm novelizing Shadow of the Colossus.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
You have a good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, man with the sword, go for it.
I have a question, and it's related actually to a film. The Christopher Nolan Batman movies, a lot of people online, including online reviewers like Leon Thomas, have pointed out how it is almost a commentary, politically conservative views that are being issued by it. Nolan has said that I don't intend for these movies to be political in any way, but watching it myself, I actually am a political science student in university, and I'm big into fiction also, so I'm often good at picking apart things and analyzing it. So I've looked at them as being very political, even though he says that it's not. And I was just wondering, do you think that it is possible that, this is just coincidence, or do you think Nolan actually was trying to put something in there?
The thing about politics is the art of taking things that people already believe in or have feelings about naturally and assigning a label to it that can then be voted on. A lot of very few people, I would say, and this is not a knock on people in general, who describe themselves as something politically would fully line up with any version of that on a long balance sheet. A lot of people who say, I am a progressive, would have a ... I'm conservative, but ... So I'm always a little wary of, saying that a film is or is not political. Everything's political. Everything ties into something important. It's the way that we manage our lives and our day-to-day stuff, running of government, running of cities, running of a society. When it comes to the Nolan Batman movies, I don't know what Christopher Nolan's personal politics are. I think you can get a pretty clear read of what he feels about the way the world is organized in the Batman movies, if those are, and in his other movies he seems to be a guy that's very much about, if there's a consistent theme throughout Christopher Nolan movies, is order is good, stability is good, you know, chaos upsets the natural order, and that sort of thing. So if you want to say that he is he's definitely not an anarchist. You know, he definitely wouldn't fall on any, you know, whether you mean, you know, anarcho-leftist or anarcho-capitalist or anything like that, he definitely doesn't land there. I think some things, when it comes to adapting, you just can't get away from. Batman, and I like Batman as a character, I think Batman is an innately more what Americans would describe as right-wing character than, in terms of setup, than a lot of other things. Just on virtue of, you can start lining up points. He's obsessed with law and order, not necessarily just law and order, you know, stop the criminals, do whatever you can to do that. He is a vigilante, so there's a lot of, you know, personal, you know, the individual will clean things up better than the government. I mean, if you want to look at like the general theme of all Batman media throughout there, it's that one rich guy who's willing to spend his money on cleaning up crime stuff will do so more efficiently than a police department or a government. So you can attach a lot of labels to that. Liberal ain't one of them. So I would say that whereas Superman, which is all about, you know, just do things because they're right, and, you know, a Superman coming through has tinges of, if we're being honest, like benevolent fascism, but is also, if you go back and read early Superman comics, the idea was that he was so powerful, he was more powerful than the bankers and the gangsters and the robber barons and such. So he, at least conceptually, comes more out of the left, but you can bend that in multiple different ways. He was a right-wing superhero in the 50s. He was very much a New Deal left-wing superhero, using strictly American terms because it's what I'm more familiar with in that era. But you know, I would say I don't know a direction you can bend Batman that Batman doesn't come off at least nominally conservative.
Well, just like a little bit on the left, because like he's always been usually against the death penalty, except in like Frank Miller's comics, and he's also usually been against the use of guns. So maybe on those two issues, so it sort of goes back and forth. But I just think in that one there was a lot of commentary on society that people picked up on.
The Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I would say, land more on the right than they do anything else. They're definitely anti, you know, uprising against the system. They are about the system is good and must be upheld and established, even if you have to lie about what Harvey Dent was. So there is that. But that would be my answer to that. It's a good question, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, these are good. Hello.
Hey,
How you doing?
as a fellow movie critic myself, I'm just curious your opinion on two films. The first being The Bling Ring from last year, the Sofia Coppola movie, and the second one being Snowpiercer.
I think Snowpiercer, I just saw, it's more fresh in my mind. I love Snowpiercer. I thought it was really cool, good action, you know, heavy-handed with the message mongering, but it gets its point across. A lot of great visual ideas happen in it. This is the one where it's all of humanity is on a train in the future, traveling around the world because we froze the planet. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's satire. It doesn't necessarily need to, and it's a trip, man. It's really cool. The Bling Ring was a true story-based film about a group of sort of rich Beverly Hills kids who decided that their new fun thing to do would be to rob other much more wealthy Beverly Hills kids. So like, you know, like the brats from the Fresh Prince robbing the brats from the hills, basically, was the idea. And this was a real thing that they would break into their house, and like, you know, their idea was they have so much stuff they won't miss any of it. I think Sofia Coppola pretty consistently makes really good 20-minute movies that go on for about 90 minutes. Because after all, like, I liked the movie, but after I've seen them break into one house and say, oh hey, that's Paris Hilton's shoes, and try shoes on, and spin around on a pole, and smoke pot, and talk about how their lives are meaningless, and then wake up the next day and go to school, I think I'd seen it, and then that happens like 12 more times over the course of the movie. But Emma Watson in it, so that was good. That was cool.
But isn't that the same parallel that a lot of people make about Harmony Korine's films, like when it comes to Spring Breakers?
When it comes to his, at the very least, like the beginning is long, but then eventually the second half of the movie is something completely different. And also, there was a lot more to watch in Spring Breakers. I'll just throw that out there. There was a little more. He's a more visual filmmaker than Sofia Coppola, I would say it would be the terminology. So there was a little more going on. I mean, the movie is on for like almost an hour, and you're like, okay, I'm almost sick of this, and then James Franco shows up, playing Riff Raff, and it's like, okay, yep, now there's another movie here, all right, and it goes on. I mean, it's not a perfect movie, but I certainly noticed the passage of time more in every Sofia Coppola movie, except for maybe Marie Antoinette, which actually did have a pretty good pace going. It's still too long, but it's too long with a pace.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, you're on. Where can we see your reviews?
Spectrum Pulse, primarily music, but I also talk about movies as well.
Fantastic.
Hi, I just had two questions. The first is, how come Bob's Burgers hasn't been able to find the success that it deserves? Just because, like, I watch it and it's like the funniest thing that has ever been on Fox on Sunday nights in a long time. Like, I still love The Simpsons and Family Guy, but this just tops it. And I think, like, how come more people aren't watching it?
Well, I think it's doing decently. They did renew it for another season, so I mean they're going to get 5 seasons out of it, and they'll get to 100 episodes, which is like the metric usually for a TV show. I think it might be not really built for just conceptually. I think Bob's Burgers might be a show that's not fully conceptually built for like huge fandom. If only because a lot of its more quotable stuff is stuff that only works in context or anything else. Like there's no cutaways on this show. There's no, like, you can dice an episode of Family Guy or certain episodes of The Simpsons up into bite-sized bits and get, okay, here's a memorable line and here's that. Whereas Bob's Burgers is usually story, weirdness, absurdity leading in, and joke. And that takes a little while longer. But I do see it developing a fandom. It's getting a devoted fandom. Not everything gets to be Family Guy. In terms of being like, this huge pop culture phenomenon thing that's on everything. I think it's doing respectably, and it's certainly doing well enough to be kept on Fox that night, which not everything is. Mm-hmm. They canceled ADHD. So, and that was...
Who would have seen that coming?
Yeah, really, wow. Robot Chicken, but with Flash animation seemed like such a good idea. Yeah, that was unfortunate. Did anyone actually watch ADHD on TV, or did we only look at it on YouTube?
I've never heard of it until now.
I watched a little bit of it.
I saw one episode.
There you go. Yeah, so clearly not the huge runaway success that they were hoping for. But I think Bob's Burgers is doing okay. I don't think it's engineered to be a ginormous smash hit thing. It's a very easygoing show. It's like the NPR of animated comedy. It goes on, it does its thing, it runs through, and you're all set. And people will discover more. It's on Adult Swim, which means it'll run forever.
Oh, that's great.
So they'll, I think it'll find its audience. You're already seeing, it already has a breakout character in Tina. Who the internet has fallen in love with Tina. She's like the spirit animal.
There are people doing commissions of her pictures of her.
Oh, that's awesome. So I think Bob's Burgers will be just fine. And if not, wait a little while and John Benjamin will have another show. He's still got one more season at least of Archer. Yeah. There you go.
All right, and my second question was, just because we just came from the Marvel Cinematic Universe panel, I just want to pose this question to you, but like, what comic storyline would you like to see them incorporate into a new cinematic universe, or do you think they're just better off coming up with their own storylines? I think
that, coming up with their own, I don't know, because they really haven't yet. But they've sort of used storylines from the comics as inspiration. I mean, there are decades and decades of this stuff to mine. I don't know that there's any particular story that I want to see. Like Pie in the Sky, I would love to see them do like the Kree-Skrull War. But there's a million different alien war stories that you could do with there. I would really like to see them take a swing at something like Civil War. I think would be not exactly that, because it's heavy-handed and the ending didn't really work, but something on those lines might be interesting. I don't know what's in the offing for that, other than when it comes to like Avengers 2 coming out. It's a good rule of thumb that the second movie in a trilogy like this usually doesn't have a happy ending. So I want to see what the status quo of this would be. I mean, like, conceivably they could end number 2 with the Avengers all being pissed off at each other, and then, maybe not a movie, but phase 3 would be Civil War running in the background, where, if nothing else, it provides a nice answer to the constant question of why aren't the Avengers together in their solo movies? You know, obviously it's because they can't afford everybody. But, you know, if you want to know, it's like, well, wait a minute, why does it, in the other movies, it's like, okay, why didn't Captain America call Iron Man? Well, he blew up all his Iron Man suits at the end of the last one, so maybe he wasn't available, but clearly he's Iron Man again in Avengers 2, so they're gonna need a new excuse, and they aren't talking right now would be a good one. Or, you know, hey, the Hulk is off doing bad stuff this time. You know, I'd like to see some stuff like that. We've seen the hero, like the first Avengers was a great version of we're good guys and we're friends and we're gonna punch bad guys. And I love that movie because it's like a $200 million action movie, and as close as it gets to a moral is friends are important. Working together is good. And I like that. I think that's fun. So I would love to see that. I think that would be a lot of fun because you don't see that often.
All right, and just one more. How soon until the Marvel Cinematic Universe bubble bursts? Like,
I don't know.
is it close or?
I don't know that it's a bubble at this point. I think it's been going too long, and we'll see what happens when Ant-Man comes out, because that's been such a mess of making it. But if Guardians of the Galaxy comes out in 2 weeks and makes money, and it probably will, I don't know what stops this, other than the audience just getting completely sick of it, just deciding we don't want to see this anymore. But even then, you know, they've got so many other things they can do. You know, I could see people saying, you know, we've seen enough, gosh, excuse me. I could see people saying we've seen enough Iron Man, but they've got a whole bunch of other guys, and they've got all these other things. This might just be the state of things now, that instead of studios, you've got universes and various things happen in them. It's conceivable that this could go forever. They've got 4 Netflix shows and then a mini-series coming out. So they certainly don't think their bubble's going to burst. But then again, Warner Brothers thinks that people want to see a movie called Dawn of Justice. So, who knows?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. Why don't we see more outright villain games? I don't mean games with a karma meter where you can play kind of an anti-hero who still fights Darth Malak at the end. I mean games like Evil Genius, Dungeon Keeper, games where you actually play a supervillain.
If you're not from the United States, every Call of Duty is a villain game. Yeah, you should applaud that because we didn't plan that. I just pulled that out of my ass. You know, in all seriousness, I don't know why they don't make more games where you are an out-and-out evil character, other than you're kind of in. I think a lot of the games industry is still afraid of inviting criticism, and you know, when the negative thing to call you for so long was Murder Simulator, actually making a game where you simulate being a murderer would be pushing. I mean, like even GTA, nobody plays GTA as a paragon, right?
No.
You know,
I actually do.
Good for you. Almost no one plays. You know, I mean, it's like the game makes it possible. You know, this is the problem with having, you know, moral stuff in games is video games offer you basically the purge. You know, you can do any kind of bad stuff you want and no one's going to call you on it. A lot of people will take the opportunity to indulge in that, and so you wind up with that stuff. You know, I would love to see more games where you're playing a bad guy. I think it would be a great way to go about it. If you stretch it, there's a little bit, like most GTA games, you're playing a criminal. You know, Mafia, you're playing a criminal. Yakuza, you're playing a criminal. Usually you're a criminal with some kind of heroic motive, or you're an anti-hero. But, you know, there's a lot of that. Actually, any of those games where you're like a god game, I guess you're kind of a villain. Or like those tower defense games, who says they don't have a legitimate claim on that tower? Now you got me thinking. And that's good. Thank you.
You read it.
If you've already been up, you can go up again. If I saw some other hands go up. So if you've already been up, you can go up again if you want. We've got at least another 25 minutes.
Comment on that.
Oh, you want to have a comment? Comment.
The thing is, one guy who was doing one of those, I heard from a developer, I mean, like big up, I'm not sure it was Pete Hines or something, but when they actually do give people the option of being ultimately evil or ultimately good, only 3% of the people playing the game actually pursue the all evil route. Most people, when given the chance, want to be the hero. So I can understand that being a big problem with trying to rate criminal games. Because I wouldn't want to play a game where I'm a criminal.
Almost no one thinks they're the bad guy, though.
Well, yeah.
But when you give someone the choice, they're obviously going to be.
Well, yeah, but like,
Give someone
evil
motivation,
genius
they'll
is
do what
so
they
over
want.
the top. You play a Bond villain with a volcano layer.
Okay, I see one more from the audience, then we're gonna go back to the line. Yes, sir.
Sorry, I preferred TIE Fighter to X-Wing, and really in TIE Fighter you're fighting for the Empire.
Yeah, you're the space Nazis in that game.
Yeah.
See, Star Wars stays around for so long, you forget just how bad the Empire is supposed to be. Those are some bad guys. They've got a machine that blows up planets. I mean, it looks cool, but it blows up planets. That's the definition of indiscriminate killing.
They came into Sun Crusher.
At least that has a blast radius. This is a whole planet. You can map out an atomic bomb. You know, the Death Star just kind of has a big circle that says all of this. Just get rid of all of it. And the amount of damage that must be caused by the debris, my God, if you blew up one planet in this solar system, every other planet would look like the moon.
Everything look kind of like just kind of
Yeah, I mean,
Orbital alignment.
just destroying one planet kind of screws up the whole solar system.
yeah, it's like they didn't think out the science in Star Wars really hard before they made that movie. What is a parsec a measurement of again? No, seriously, what is it?
Time.
Does anyone actually know this?
It's a unit of time.
It's a unit of time, but they use it in the movie as a unit of distance.
Well,
And
technically,
it's-
distance and time are the same thing in space. If
This is
you,
one of those things I shouldn't ask in a room full of nerds.
I get going.
In the original script,
they measure space distance in light years,
Yeah.
and the same thing as a unit of time as well, because the time it takes you to get to that distance.
Now I wish I didn't know that. Okay, sir, you've been waiting patiently. What's your question?
I have two questions.
Okay.
One, I'm just gonna say who I think. I'll just start. Who do you think is most likely to buy Capcom now that they're up for sale?
That's a real good question. I don't know. I don't know who would be likely to buy Capcom because I don't know who would benefit from buying a Japanese game company that really only has two currently viable franchises right now. You know, I think Capcom honestly will get bought in pieces before the company gets bought. Because I can see someone, you know, who wants to make fighting games deciding, yes, we want Street Fighter, sell us this. I don't necessarily know that they want to take Mega Man. I don't know that they want to take Resident Evil. I don't know that they want to take Strider. Other various things that Capcom
Marvel versus Capcom?
there, yeah, you know, I don't think Disney wants a video game company right now. And given the way that their acquisitions have been going, if Disney is going to put a bid on someone, I think they would put it on Nintendo before they put it on Capcom, because they want to buy like a stable of characters. And if someone tells you, okay, do you want Rockman or do you want Mario? I think you buy Mario.
Yeah.
But I love Rockman, but
Be realistic.
yeah, it's one of those things. And I think that you're going to see a slaughter in the Japanese game industry in the near future of companies going under, which really sucks. But unfortunately, they've had trouble for years selling their games to the West. Now that there are Western studios making games that appeal directly to a Western sensibility instead of releasing Japanese games with misleading covers. And I don't know what's going to happen to a company like Capcom. I don't know what happens to SNK now. And SNK already got bought once before. I don't know what happens to anyone, and I think it's a really worrisome time for them.
They will start making pachinko machines.
Yeah. Like, pie in the sky, I'd love to see Nintendo buy Capcom. Nintendo's not in a position to buy Capcom right now. They're hemorrhaging money. It's unfortunate. Nintendo's gonna, and plus Nintendo's gonna buy Sega before they buy Capcom.
Yeah.
But
I would say
Captain Bring Down, ladies and gentlemen. Yes.
I was gonna say I was gonna most likely be Nintendo because I'm like, I think the writing's kind of already on the walls because most of the games that already are being made are only for Nintendo by Capcom. That's the thing.
I could see them buying a big piece of Capcom. I don't think they'd take that whole company because doesn't Capcom also have a bunch of arcade and casino stuff in Japan?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo wants that. They've always tried to maintain that they're not part of that scene.
Okay, I just want to get your opinion on one thing because I was there live when it happened.
Yep.
Was that your literal reaction when the Undertaker lost to Brock Lesnar?
That was my literal reaction. That was my literal reaction. Was holy shit when I saw that happen. I was in a bar. I was in a Hooters because that's where you can go to watch WrestleMania for free. Yes, that's the reason. And I mean, I was reacting like, oh holy shit. There were like grown men sobbing, like guys, like dudes like with their beard, looking at like no. Like I saw a dude You know, like he looked at the screen, he sat there for a little while, he took a drink, he picked up his beer, polished off his beer, put it down on the bar. This was not the end of WrestleMania. There were 2 more matches after this. Put the beer down, you know, opened up his wallet, took out, you know, a big handful of money, put it on the bar, walked out of the bar. Walked out. I don't know where he went, but he just didn't want to be there anymore.
I was in that the Mercedes-Benz Superdome Live. It was dead silent. Like just dead. Like, we went to Bourbon Street. You know, everyone knows what Bourbon Street is here, right? Silent.
It's very quiet.
Nothing. No one was partying. No one was drinking. We went to a restaurant. Everyone was trying to get each other therapy.
All right. I don't want to cut you off, but we're on our last 15. I want to make sure everyone gets on through. So let's pick up the pace and roll through. How you doing, sir?
Good. You mentioned before how you would like to make a dream project movie of Super Mario.
Yeah.
What is it in movie adaptations of video games that fail that you think you could make work with? Because you know, games, movies. But what art styles specifically? Because we've seen live action not really work too well.
I don't think it's a style thing. I think it's a story thing. I think that you need anything that you're making, I think you just need to figure out what the story you're telling is. 9 times, the best video game movie that's been made, in my opinion, are 2 of them are the Resident Evil series as a whole. Yes, the Resident Evil movies are, don't jump on me, the Resident Evil movies are terrible. Wow. It used to be if you said that the Resident Evil movies were good, people would rush you at these things. It's like, they left out X character from number 4. And it's like, look, Resident Evil movies are stupid zombie movies. The Resident Evil games have a dumbass narrative. It doesn't make any sense. It's goofy as hell. The movies are exactly as goofy, just in a different way. They're fun. And the Mortal Kombat movie, because they literally just made the game. I wish they made it R-rated, but they looked at this thing and they said, oh, okay, the story of this game is a bunch of people show up for a fighting tournament and it turns out to be corrupt and they fight back against it. Okay, that's the literal story of Enter the Dragon, Bloodsport, Karate Kid, Kickboxer. This has been done a few times. We'll just do that with guys wearing stupid ninja costumes. And they did, and they made not a good movie, but as good a movie as you're going to make out of Mortal Kombat. And I think that's where it is. When it comes to something like Super Mario Brothers, I mean, it's not that complicated. It's a fantasy story. There's 2 guys. They have to cross a certain amount of area to save a princess. We've been telling this story since we had cavemen and fires. I don't think it's that hard to figure out. You know, it might not look exactly like the games do or whatnot, but I think there's a story there. You know, 2 guys take a thing to a place is the story of Lord of the Rings. We're on our 6th movie of that as of this year. So that would be my answer.
Okay. Cool.
Hey, thank you for asking. I knew someone was going to ask, so I'm only prepared.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how's it going?
Hello, there we go, sorry.
Wow, that was loud.
Sorry, this mic is not built for men, just greater stature.
My voice.
I'll try to keep this bit of a lead up, but...
And not just because you can't hold that position for too long.
I did Kung Fu, I can hold the horse stance as long as I need to. So, alright, beginning. Alright, so, one of the things that's really kind of come out of the whole video game industry in a panic is the worry that we're headed for another crash. But there's a totally different ecosystem from the way that things were back in the 80s because of digital distribution, and I think the most interesting thing is Kickstarter. Yeah. And you see this a lot in the music industry where you've got a lot more ways for artists to take their product directly to the purchaser through things like SoundCloud and Bandcamp now. So with these sorts of direct creative to consumer avenues taking hold in the video gaming and the music industry, do you think that sort of model is viable for things like TV production and movie production? And if so, how long before the bigwigs at the big movie companies start sweating bullets over it?
I don't think they ever start sweating bullets because right now they've got a lot of young people who are paid to know about these things that are coming down the pipe and find a way for them to exploit it, which is why Warner Brothers now owns a YouTube partner and why Disney now owns a YouTube partner. And they paid a lot of money for those, and everyone said, oh my god, that's so stupid, why'd you pay for that? Because the next thing that they're going to turn into a big sitcom is going to come from there. So I think that the big studios are run by guys who are really good at surviving. And they'll figure out a way through it. You know, music, you know, the record industry fell apart, quote unquote, after Napster and digital distribution came along and changed that whole landscape. But all the big guys that had jobs and were rich, they're still rich.
Yeah.
They've still got their stuff. The guys making those decisions all got their stuff or got their golden parachutes. It's all the below the line employees that go down. Whenever you hear, you know, as much as I love and hate, but basically love the tech industry and the notion of disrupting an industry as a way to go about it. You know, like when Uber comes along and says, we're gonna disrupt the transportation industry, guys who run like big transportation outfits and like franchise taxi cab outlets, that guy's already rich, he's fine. The guys you're disrupting out of business are all their below the line employees, the guys driving and answering the phones. If you wreck the financial sector tomorrow, Warren Buffett and Mitt Romney are just fine. Their driver's fucked. So, you know, the studios will weather it just fine. Everyone else is screwed. I hate to be apocalyptic about it, but there you go.
But the thing I'm thinking about is that when it comes to the studio system and the fact that like they're bringing these products out of it, how are they going to survive if the creative people who are making this are going elsewhere? Like that seems to be the difference between these creative markets, because the people who are actually creating, like these people are the whole movie industry is basically built on a racket. It's about taking people who are talented and making money off the backs of those people. If those people have a viable alternative to go somewhere else that's more profitable for them, and then they have to deal with less studio oversight and hassle for it.
And they'll buy somewhere else. Is the answer. Like I don't mean to be flip. I'm trying to move things along, but
No,
the answer is that someone with money will figure out a way to own the later permutations of Kickstarter. You know, it'll become Warner Brothers Kickstarter, Microsoft Kickstarter, iKickstarter. You know, not for nothing. Napster killed the record industry and brought Steve Jobs back to life. Someone always makes money.
Well, thanks very much.
You too. Next. We are running at about a little under 10 minutes, so speedy and clipped.
I'll make it quick. As somebody who tries to put on video content on YouTube, how do you feel about how companies, especially like Nintendo, handle YouTubers? Because I love how the game theorist commented saying that's a major part of what Wii U sales have dropped because they're not letting people like PewDiePie shovel it out to 4 million people.
Well, I don't know if PewDiePie has anything to do with why the Wii U isn't moving, but I do know that Nintendo's... See, you're asking someone who actually puts like effort into making money on YouTube to comment on PewDiePie. So
that was not intentional.
So I've got to parse my words out real carefully because I'm told he's a very nice guy, and I'm sure he absolutely deserves to make $4 million a year for yelling at the screen. But it's okay. It's okay. He figured it out. I didn't. That's fine. Nintendo and any game company that is against streaming right now is behind the times and they're shooting themselves in the foot, bottom line, because that is how a lot of games are now getting advertised. If you're against, I understand technically they have a point, that this is their game, these are their visuals, they own every pixel on that screen. If they say it can't be broadcast, it can't be. Legally, they have legal standing under even the broadest interpretation of US copyright law. On the other hand, international copyright law, hell. On the other hand, this is how people are finding out about games now. This is how people are seeing things, and if you're not letting them do it, all you're doing is turning off customers.
I mean, essentially it's free advertising.
It is, but then again, I can't make a commercial for Coca-Cola and broadcast it on TV that they don't approve of because they've got a brand to worry about. Someone's going to need to work out how this is going to work. I just wish that a company like Nintendo, who recently content flagged a Game OverThinker video for using a clip of an E3 trailer, which, by the way, they have complete legal right to. I just wish they hadn't, because all I was doing was telling people that their game looked good. But someone's going to need to take a look at this. There's going to be a Supreme Court case about this in the near future, not about appropriationist works, but about here is a clip from a movie so I can tell you what this movie is. This game is, it's going to need some kind of change in it because this is the wave of the future. And if they don't get ahead of it, they're going to get ground up by it. Yeah.
All right.
Profundity.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi there. I just got one quick question.
Sure.
You couldn't claim fair use when they flagged your stuff?
Because it is a piece of the advertisement, I have challenged it, and we'll see what happens. But the fact is, these are handled by bots, you know, that do it automatically. So when it gets back, but you know, I mean, when it comes to it, fair use covers a lot of things. But the fact is, if they own the right to the character being shown there, they can say, hey, don't use it. unless you can say that you're like a documentary filmmaker or you're using it in some kind of political or satirical context. I don't have that to stand on. It was a review of E3 trailers. So there you go.
Sorry, my actual question. After everything that's happened, what, if anything, do you think Warner Brothers can do to salvage the DC universe that they're trying to build?
When your movies are still making hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, I'm not sure salvage is the word that I would use. When a Man of Steel didn't make the money they wanted it to make, it still made hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide. We can start calling it salvage when one of these comes out and no one shows up. I want to see what they show at SDCC. I'm expecting that we'll probably see some footage and maybe find out what Wonder Woman looks like, and maybe what Aquaman looks like. Yep, got a 5? 10? Oh, okay, maybe 10. No, the guy was giving me a time signal.
Yeah.
Thank you. These guys are right on top of the heads for the staff, yeah. In all seriousness, what can Warner Brothers do to, protect their the DC movies? They need to make them good. It's not alchemy. You need to hire talented people, let them make a good movie, and hope that people turn out to see it. I think they can. I don't know that they're going to have like Marvel success, but I don't necessarily know that that's what they're looking for. One of the reasons the Marvel movies are what they are is because that's all they're doing. If that doesn't work, that's what they're doing. DC is thinking long term and thinking in terms of we need these characters to stick around and be viable. That's why like the Gotham TV show is not tied into the movies. They haven't really said officially whether Flash or Green Lantern are tied in, because they're like everyone from Justice League seems to be showing up in Dawn of Justice. We know Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are in it. We know that Cyborg is in it. He might not be Cyborg yet, but they're the guy who will be Cyborg in the movie. And we know that the guy who plays Khal Drogo is Aquaman, and that he's going to be in there somewhere. Yeah, this was news a few weeks ago, and then it's still kind of under the water because he still won't officially say that he is, but yeah, he's Aquaman. So what is his actual name? Jason Momoa is Aquaman. And so maybe the Flash will turn up in that. I think the movie has very much potential to be good. I wish someone else was writing it, because I don't think David Goyer really has his handle on things, but they have another writer, and Ben Affleck is a screenwriter, and they definitely want him on that. So I'm sure he will take a look at it. I'm expecting good things. I like the cast that they have. I like Ben Affleck for Batman. I think Gal Gadot could be an interesting Wonder Woman. I think Henry Cavill, given the right movie, could be a good Superman. But we'll see. I just think they have to try, just look at these things and say, why do we want to make this in the first place, other than to make the money, and then try to make the best version they can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One more question, taking it back to film.
Sure.
Do you think that Clerks 3 could salvage Kevin Smith's career?
No. Salvage what? Because right now, whatever I think of Kevin Smith, which is I think that he is sort of never really lived up to his potential, and is sort of an irritating presence as a public figure much of the time now on everything other than his podcasts, which he's very entertaining on. And then, they send him to a movie set or something, and it's like, hey, here's my report from the set. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. But the thing of it is if he makes Clerks 3 the way that he's made his last couple of movies, he's going to make whatever the hell he wants to make, and he's going to take it on the road and show it as part of his speaking tour, and charge people $60 a ticket to come to the speaking tour, put that towards the gross of the movie, and it gets to be called a success. I wish I could do that. If Kevin Smith's career is in need of salvage, I wish my career was in that need of salvage. I think he's just doing what he wants to do. He's not getting any younger. He's got kids to take care of. He's got a family to think of. I hope Clerks 3 is funny. I like a lot of Clerks 2. I really like the Clerks animated series. I think that might be the most, that might hold up better than anything he's done, is the Clerks the animated series. In terms of, like, original Clerks, good as an amateur film project. Mallrats has its funny moments, kind of stupid. Chasing Amy doesn't work for me at all, but it has some jokes. Dogma, I think, is really pretty good, but Clerks the animated series is good for all 6 episodes. Maybe it would be bad if they made more than that, but I love it. I'm Dante, and I'm the biggest idiot ever. I think that's just hysterical. It's a good thing, so I think he can bounce back. If Clerks 3 is good, then maybe you need to take another look at him. I kind of hope that Clerks 3 isn't what everyone thinks it'll be, which is them making a movie in the quick stop that becomes Clerks 1. and like makes it full circle. But I actually would kind of like to see that. So who knows?